Good morning. This is Doreen with Thought Storm Journal. I want to talk a little bit today about being the loner. I've always been a loner, and I want to address other people who are a loner also. As humans, we all want to belong. We all want to feel supported, and we all need that to a certain degree. But there's also a danger in it. It can be a trap that people can get caught up in and not even realize it. And when I was growing up, the idea of teams and teamwork were the only values anyone taught. That's what kids learned in school, how to interact with a group or team, and that's fine. A lot of people still aspire to that, but I kind of disagree with it sometimes, and I'll tell you the reason. School and sports were great for some kids, but the rest of us were made to feel like we were weird or defective if we didn't want to be involved in that stuff. Some of us simply had our own minds and wanted to do our own things. When I was in the 7th grade, I was pulled into the principal's office numerous times that year for what was referred to as attitude problems. And even in my adult capacity now, I still don't know exactly what they were referring to, but it's one of those things that kids have to deal with if you don't quote unquote behave, which is just a way of saying you don't think, act, and conform in such a way that's deemed acceptable by the establishment. But I remember one day in particular when the principal was clearly tired of dealing with me and it felt like he was running out of things to say. But he did manage to say that I was a loner and that I had no friends. And I had to watch the look on his face to see what he actually meant. And that look he gave me, a clear look of derision, was indicating that he meant that statement as a negative one. Being a loner and having no friends is bad. And I can clearly remember at this tender age of probably 13 what I was thinking when he said that. I was thinking to myself, well, at least I'm not a robot like you. At least I think for myself. Thankfully, I didn't say it out loud. I was already in enough trouble for, I still don't know what, attitude problems. And you would think that now that I'm older and in my infinite mature wisdom that I would have changed my quote-unquote bad attitude over the course of time. But that is thankfully not the case. I, as the loner, have never readily identified with any group of people. I have no set political affiliation. I don't belong to a church. I don't join any social groups. And I only go out with one or maybe two friends at a time, and very rarely. And just like I've demonstrated here, school, the most widely used indoctrination tool or means to control children, didn't work very well on me. I was always very militant in my own personal convictions from a very young age. I didn't buy into everything I was being told by everyone, even if I was being told by the principal of the school under threat of detention or expulsion. Now, that didn't mean I was such a badass. I'm not trying to come off that way. It just meant that I had no concept of being any other way. And I'm actually glad of that. But at the time, I was made to feel like that wasn't okay. Now, I do understand that we as humans need each other's help to survive. That's how we were designed. So I'm not devaluing human relationships. I'm not devaluing the need for team efforts. Quite the contrary. But when we feel the need to be a member of a group, it often means we're seeking the approval and acceptance of others, which is not the healthiest thing, and that's a topic for another day. But this idea that we always need the safety of a group gives negative connotations to the idea of being alone. Like being the loner is the worst thing we can be. And it's easy to feel trapped by that idea, especially as a child when you absolutely must have the help and support of adults. That you must be a member of some kind of group in order to be somebody, to be acceptable and lovable. This is a trap all children become caught in. They have no choice as children, but then they carry that attitude into adulthood. As we grow older, it does become a choice, and there's a definite power in learning to be alone. Once you're alone and get comfortable with that, it empowers you in unexpected ways. You don't identify as any group. You have to figure out who you are on your own. There's no one there to tell you who you are or what to believe. You decide who and what you are. and you formulate your own beliefs. And yes, it can be awkward at first, but once you're there, you'll have trouble with groups from that point on. Once you get involved with a group, the group decides who and what you are. Once you declare yourself to be a member of, fill in the blank, you lose your personal identity and you've ultimately entangled yourself in a web simply for the sake of belonging. The group decides what you believe. The group decides your next move for you. And it's ultimately the group that controls you. This is the danger of not learning to be alone. But in order to grow and evolve and expand, you have to learn to stand alone. There's no growth or evolution or expansion in being with or identifying with a group. That group will always control you and tell you what you should think. You see it all the time in society. You see it every day. Nearly everyone is controlled by some type of groupthink, programmed by someone, and most of the time, they don't even know it. But it's rare to find someone who truly has no fear of standing alone. So, I will stay true to my loner status that I was shamed for in junior high. What that principal didn't know about me as he was looking down his nose at me is that my ability to be alone and my ability to say no to groupthink saved me from doing a lot of harmful things that other kids do. All because the group they were with were all doing it. But my independent attitude, my quote-unquote attitude problems, kept me from drugs and alcohol and all those other harmful things kids can get involved in if they have a group mentality and want so badly to be accepted by others, or they're afraid of being alone. So if you want to be powerful, really, and you want your kids to be powerful too, teach them, of course, teach them about the value of teamwork and the value of relationships. Those things are important. But also teach them about the value of standing alone in their convictions and the way they think, and that it's sometimes okay to not be a member of a group.